Hi, welcome. I'm Melody White. We have a campaign going on right now, and so as part of that, with each of our blog posts, we usually make reference to it. And this one's Celebrate You. And so a couple of things came forward in my mind that led me to this topic. And this topic is acceptance versus struggle. And so I had a friend of mine who I was visiting with, and they made this statement. They said, Melody, I am just tired of fighting it. I have no more fight left in me. And it was such an aha moment to me that it made me think, why are we fighting it? Why are we fighting life? What are we fighting? It is often hard for us to see that life is happening for us and not to us. But if we believe in the grand design of life and that there's this higher power, then we have to know that things are moving forward for our benefit. But boy, do we often struggle against it. I know I have. I know I've spent many days and energy and months and even years not accepting what is. And so I put up a fight against life. And for me, it felt like this. It's not like we go out there and say, hey, you know what? Bring on the change. I want you to change everything about my life right now. But that's what happens often in life. Things change. On a dime, your life can change. And it's like being dropped in the wilderness. Like someone just said, okay, boom, you're right here. Just picked you up and dropped you down in a piece of land you're unfamiliar with. And it's dark. And this is at least what I've pictured. I'm in a wilderness. I've been dropped into it. I was over here in my safe place, in the place that I knew, the stuff that was familiar. But now I'm dropped over here in the wilderness. And for me, it just feels scary. It's unfamiliar territory. And so often what we do is instead of accept that I'm in the wilderness, I keep wanting to go back over here. But this is where I was. This is what felt good. But I'm not there. I'm over here, but I'm wishing I was there. I'm not accepting what is. I'm struggling against the what is. And so the thing is, it is what is. And so I can kick and scream forever. Forever I can kick and scream about the what is, but it is never going to take me back to here. I am here. I'm in the wilderness. And the only real choice I have is to accept that I'm in a new place and that I'm going to have to look around and see how I'm going to survive. That's exactly what it's like, especially when something's so life-altering. If you've lived long enough, you've had life-altering changes. You've experienced being in this life that you're living comfortably to being dropped in the wilderness overnight. And you know how long sometimes that process could be to finally quit begging the powers that be to put you back over here. But when you finally do, because you don't have another choice, it's that you start to look around, and the first thing you're thinking is how you're going to survive what is. And because this is me physically thinking that you're in this wilderness, but you really kind of are. You're in a place that's unfamiliar, unknown. It feels dark and scary to you. And so you got to start thinking, okay, how am I going to have shelter? What am I going to do? So you got to get shelter. You got to find a way to have food. You got to, and these are, I'm using, this is an analogy, but I think it makes sense, is that I've got to find a way to survive this new life, this wilderness where I am. And so I've been there. I've seen myself in the wilderness, and I have fought against it for a long time about different things. And then eventually I do gather up enough to survive. I've got my shelter, my food, my clothing, but that's mere survival. That's existence. But it did make me at least look around me and see the resources that I have to survive. So that's the first thing, looking around, seeing, accepting what it is enough to at least survive. And then we can go back to kicking and screaming and still wishing what was. And we often do that. People spend lifetime in the fact that I didn't want this to happen. So I've got my survival needs taken care of, but I am still wishing I was over here. I am still not really accepting what is. And And so we're in the wilderness, we're surviving, we got shelter, we got food, but we're not willing to venture out into this wildlife and see what there is. So that's the challenge, is to accept that you're here and that you've got your survival needs met, and that you're going to venture outside the shelter and look around in this wilderness. And when I was writing the blog post about this, it was that you would venture out to enjoy the wildlife. And it made me think that that's exactly how I've experienced it, is that as long as I held on over here and didn't accept what was, I wasn't experiencing the wildlife, like the life that's worth living, the one that comes with new, exciting things. And it does mean having to accept some very challenging, difficult, some often seemingly horrible circumstances that brought you and dropped you in the wilderness. But I know without a doubt that wilderness is what builds you. That you become strong from having to gather your own firewood. That you become strong from having to build your own shelter. That you become strong from having to gather your food. That you begin to enjoy life by stepping outside the shelter and living it. That you're not tied to this anymore, because we can hold on to that till we have rope burns. But it will never change the fact that it is not what is anymore. This is what is. This is the wilderness. This is the wildlife, baby. This is where we build who we are. And it is scary, and it is, oh my God, it is terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. But it is building you. It is strengthening you. And it is where the journey is. Staying over here and living in the past will do nothing but make you miserable. And there will be no forward progression. But I have done that. And until I was forced to, really recognize everything over here. And this is where you'll find out what you're made of. And you'll see all the capable aspects to you. And accepting what is this process of being able to renew who you are over and over, because life is going to change. That is a promise. Life will change. And accepting the what is and beginning the journey of living it means we'll be in the present. So I love this statement: accept the what is, accept where you are, and begin the journey of living it, because this is where you are. Live where you are, not back here where you were. Start to embrace the what is, and not fight life. You'll never win. You'll never win. You'll have to accept the what is, and then eventually you'll come to see that that life is happening for you and not to you, even though it's difficult. But the living it, this is where the fun part happens. This is where the good stuff takes place, is when you venture out of your hut, your shelter, and live the wild life. So I in this campaign this year of celebrating you, I offer this up, that all paths are leading to you. All the changes in your life are leading to you, to developing you, to cultivating you, to helping you understand what you contain and what you hold and how to use it out there in the world. So let's start accepting what is and begin the journey of living it. Thanks for joining us, and I hope to see you again soon.